Another famous fungus collected by those that are interested in wild mushrooms across the world is the Queen Bolete, and I told you that I'm going to discuss a little bit more about this particular fungus, which deserves a great attention just because it's locally it's very common, and sometimes you can collect a lot of samples out there, and it's one of the most famous fungi out there. So I believe that it deserves the proper attention here. Now, in flavor and texture, I wouldn't say that this fungus is very different than our King Bolete, but when it's about aspect, it's a little bit different, and let's dive into it and let's talk about those differences again. The Queen Bolete, it's also called dark chap, and that's very fair, just because if you look at the cap of this fungus is darker, but also tanned chap and bronze chap. Aereus actually has something to do, the name aereus has something to do about the color of this bolete. Also, the entire fruit body is firm compared to the King Bolete, which is rather spongy. And this fungus doesn't get really large fruit bodies, but forms like small medium fruit bodies up to 20 centimeters wide across. And I would say that usually the cap, it's covered in a white bloom that kind of resembles in a way a frost-like appearance, or imagine that you would just spread white powder dissolved in some kind of liquid that you would place on the top of this cap of the fungus, and that's an appearance which is very interesting, but it doesn't get that like that all the time, only in some fruit bodies. Unfortunately, I don't have here one of those fruit bodies in pictures to show you exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm pretty sure if you're a little bit familiar with boletes, then you've seen it. And of course, if you're going to find a leaf that fell on the cap of this fungus and you'll lift it up, you'll see that that spot, it's lighter, much lighter in color. The pores are small, very tiny. You can barely see them, and the pore surface is white at first, but then it's going to turn a little bit cream yellow, and in mature samples you'll see that it's rather olive greenish, but it doesn't bruise, and even if you've handled the fungus, you don't really see any changes in color. Also, the tube layer, it's white, so this is an important difference if you compare this fungus to the King Bolete. And sometimes it's very thin, actually. Sometimes it's thicker in some samples, sometimes it's thinner, so it's fluctuating, it's not really stable. The flesh, it's white, it doesn't change color, not even above the tubes like in the other fungus there, and it has an olive brown spore print. Now, primarily this fungus prefers hardwood trees. It's a mycorrhizal fungus with oak and some other trees hardwood trees out there, but you can also find it under conifers, especially in mossy and moisty areas in the mountains. This is something what this fungus prefers, even if at one point the temperature rises. You may find this fungus without any problem intact, and I believe that that's because of its firm fruit body. It grows in the summer and gets through the fall, and as I said, it can be very easily confused with the King Bolete. Actually, many people out there confuse it to the King Bolete. Let's look a little bit in the features of the King Bolete so you can see more exactly what I mean here. The King Bolete, as you see, it has yellowish, brown, green, olive tube layer, but also the pore surface turns like that, and when you make a cross section through this fungus, sometimes you can see that turns a little bit darker above the tube layer, the flesh. And also it's spongy, the underneath and on the cap when it's mature, of course. But especially if this fungus is in young stage, then it can be confused more with the Queen Bolete. And this is also mycorrhizal. Mostly you'll find it growing in conifer forests. So that's it about the Queen Bolete and the King Bolete. So I already know that I passed through this information, but I rather wanted to tell you a little bit more, perhaps for you to understand the value of the Queen Bolete. The Queen Bolete is simply amazing. You can take its fruit bodies and you can slice them up, you can dry them up in the sun, you can put them on a string, hang them in the wind, and they will dry up. And not only that, but if you keep them in the sun, they can get some D vitamin in there.